players set up wide.
Yeah.
Everyone was thinking he was going wide. He even cocked the pass as if it was going quite hard and fast out wide, and then he just held it back to the man who popped up from just behind him. Brilliant piece of play design, brilliant piece of execution from Salford for their first try. I think that was fantastic. What were these calls that went, other than the club 8-point try, which we've talked about? What were these calls that went in Wigan's favour? Was it the forward pass that Joe Burgess then touched into touch? So they gave it as a Wigan scrum because it was a forward pass, I thought, and then they checked it and said Joe Burgess has touched it, so it's a Salford scrum. And that actually led to some scoring later on. Was it that play? Because that was a forward pass, so they got it right first time around. Was it that one that went against them?
I think there were a few both ways. I'm not... I don't think it was the best. I think Kendall put in a much better performance overall and his team at Warrington Cast than in this game. I think there were quite a few mistakes.
What about the no try? What was up with the no try? The ball was passed behind the runner.
Oh, I don't know. It looked fine to me when I saw it.
One Salford defender ran into another Salford defender with them both falling for the dummy run. I thought
I didn't see much with that. There were a few ball strips that.
Yes, there was one very late in the game, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was one late in the game where
Wigan stripped it from Salford, and it should have been a Salford penalty. About 20 out with about 3 minutes to play.
It's difficult when you've only got one referee on the pitch, unless your video ref can intervene and say, "Oh, by the way, that was stripped out by Sean O'Loughlin." You can't expect the referee to be able to see that.
No, that one was clear. I think that one was clear. I can't remember which Wigan player it was who knocked it out, but
it was Lockers.
Was it? That one was absolutely clear. There was one in the first half, wasn't there? A couple of play. I think it was in the set that built up to Wigan's first try. Actually,
it was
where I didn't see an issue with it. No hand actually touched the ball. An arm was pulled out, but the Salford player, if you're trapping an arm in, has to hold on to the ball, I think.
Yeah. Maybe that's
my bias. I don't know.
No. I think that's okay. I mean, I think different people saw it different ways. I thought it was okay at the time.
There was definitely that one near the end of the game. There's no arguments with that one.
That was the ball. The hand was on the ball and pulled it away. But there you go. So, I mean, I think people, when the game is fast and intense like that, there are going to be mistakes made, particularly with just one referee on the field, in my opinion. I do think the game's too fast and too hard for one referee, without the intervention of the video ref or without a second-rate referee on the field, to catch all of the important moments. And in a tight game, it can leave people feeling a bit miffed, but I don't think any of those decisions actually made a difference to the end result here.
The crucial mistake was Chris Nino's, wasn't it?
It was, and I think then Wigan capitalised by scoring getting two scores quickly.
And
if you can do that,
error. Let's not pretend.
No, absolutely. I mean, Wigan's defence did very well there, but he should just hold on to the ball and taken the tackle. But getting two scores quickly, that was always going to be a big ask to get back from that. I thought Salford did very well, got themselves back into the game, but it was too much to ask for them to get back two scores, I thought.
I think this game had everything other than 3,000 more Wigan fans that should have been there.
Yeah, there you go. Well, both a great start to the playoffs in Super League, in my view, with both games, and hopefully, as I say, we get at least one good game this week, i.e. Salford and Castleford, and the other one's extremely boring as Saints just run away with it. But there you go.
Stat line of the week is obviously Morgan Smithy. 72 tackles, 17 of which were marker tackles. Phenomenal. Player of the week. Who have you picked out as your player of the week?
Well, I was very impressed with Watson for Castleford. I thought he was immense during that game. I've seen him a few times this year playing against Saints, and I'd heard how he was playing so well and not being massively impressed, but I was hugely impressed by the shift he put in against Warrington. So for me, Watts, player of the week.
Well, this is boring. I've got Liam Watts as well. I think that game, whilst I think there was more players who played up to their potential in the in the Wigan game, in the Wigan Salford game, and I think there was a couple of players who had arguably the best performances of the year. Burgess for Wigan and Dudson for Salford. I think Liam Watts was a difference he was the biggest difference in his game, I think, and that's why I've gone with him as player of the week.
I agree with that.
Highlight of the week for me is the Williams try. Like I said, it was kind of the one true piece of breakaway play and executed really well after the kind of bounced ball at the start, but you take your chances, and Wigan certainly did on that one.
And boringly, I've agreed with you on that as well.
Well, it couldn't have been anything from the first game.
No.
In terms of the predictions, I was 1 out of 2, so thanks to Castleford for disrupting that from me. I'm at 67%. Alan was 2 out of 2. His secret Cass fan ways came to rescue him there. 67% for him as well. Sarah was 1 out of 2. She's at 53%, and Tim is at 52%. On the Super Brew co-host Alan, he wears the yellow cap and he leads the lead, so he's looking strong with only 4 games left in that competition. And in the Fantasy League, no points were awarded, it looks like, when I had a look to see what was going on. I always thought it was awarded at this stage of the season still, but maybe not. And if so, that might mean that the season's over and Alan Bagley has retained his title. I'll keep a tab on that, but we'll keep you updated as we go along. And looks like Alan will be winning the prize again.
No surprise there, though.
Thanks, everyone, for those fan views on the games this week. I think it was great. I do love the ones that were set to cause a stir with me, and I love that no holds were barred in any of the fan views that we got. I think it's fantastic. And please do the same again in next week's games. And I'm sure if any Wigan player just crosses the line like Tony Clubb did, then we're going to hear a lot about it. Okay, great stuff, everyone. Thanks again for all of that. And, forgive me for my biases as I forgive you for yours. And we move on now to other results. So it wasn't just the Super League where we saw playoff action this weekend. It was also playoffs in the Championship, and we saw 2 cracking games on Sky Sports in this division. The first one was York 4, Featherstone 30. Do you want to take us through the 2 fan views we had on that one?
Absolutely will. So Joshua's granddad said, Leeds Low Knees beat combined FCKR Old Boys. Enjoyed the game with a tight first half. Fed running away in the second, forwards too big and strong, allowing Chisholm, Jones, McClellan the space and time to pull all the strings. And at Smeghead72 says, Featherstone were too fast at the play of the ball and a lot more creative. York just didn't have the answer. Still, it was a great run for York and they should be proud of their achievements this year. Great watching Championship games on TV.
Yeah, I think both sets of players played up in this game. I thought Featherstone are looking really strong. Toulouse need to be worried.
Yeah.
Well done to them in this game, definitely. The other Championship playoff game was Toronto 40, Toulouse 24. Played in front of a recorded crowd of 9,325, which I think is the second highest recorded crowd that the Wolfpack have played in front of. Now, I am a big supporter of the Toronto Wolfpack. I really do hope that they are able to meet the requirements. They're able to prove that there's a medium to long-term funding plan in place, because it's costing a lot to run that side. There's no doubt about that. So if there is those assurances in place, then I really can't wait for that to be confirmed and us to have this side come up to Super League if they earn that place on the field. And I've always supported their crowd numbers. I cannot support this one because I watched this game like I've watched all of their televised games pretty much. This was not the second biggest crowd that I could see on my television screen of all the Wolfpack games. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the people that were there will say there was 2,000 people tucked away on the side that the cameras couldn't see, but there was a lot of empty space in that stadium on this game. Even like the photograph in the League Express, you can see the beer garden, and that's only 1 or 2 deep, not 5 deep that you've seen it before. I don't know, but I don't want to take anything away from what was an exciting game
No, I mean I'm very sceptical about the whole Toronto experiment, but I'm hoping to get into Super League just so I can go and watch Saints play there, Mark. That's purely selfishly.
Yeah.
What I'm interested in at this point in time.
The one requirement I do think we have to talk about is there's a requirement to have a certain percentage of the stadium covered.
Right.
As far as I understand it, that's been in the regulations for years. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's dropped out of there. But obviously their stadium has no covered areas at all. So along with the financial concerns and scepticism, there's also that I think has to be mentioned. But I really hope they overcome any of those things because I think it's fantastic overall.
I think the biggest issue for me is the breakdown of the fixtures. I mean, they're not going to be able to play home and away. They're just not.
No, but this year Leeds didn't play at home for 5 weeks. Wigan and Hull and Huddersfield all had month-long breaks in the middle of the season where they weren't playing home games. They wouldn't be the only team who have fixtures organised.
Yeah.
And I think that has to be said, and people have to realise and recognise that other teams have scheduling circumstances that play out in their favour. Why should the Wolfpack be condemned for theirs? And as long as you find a balance, so it's not completely advantageous in their favour.
No, I think it's a fair point. I think you do get situations where there are, stadium issues or what have you that mean that you're going to get a few games. It seems to me to be a bit more extreme with Toronto. But anyway, let's see
fair shout.
Let's see what the criteria eventually are and whether they meet them. I mean, it seems to be desperately late in the day.
Yeah.
To be making a decision.
Well, that's because none of this stuff was properly thought through 3 years ago. I feel like it was a strike while the iron's hot, which isn't necessarily always a bad thing. You want to take your opportunities whilst they're there, certainly. But I think the RFL have kind of let this play along and not really ever asked the questions that Super League are now asking.
No.
We'll see. I really hope it all comes to pass to be a roaring success.
I certainly hope to be in Toronto next year watching Saints play. That would be fantastic.
And a strong Wolfpack presence adds to the weight of argument around a 14-team Super League because they're a team who can afford to bring talent into the competition. They might not be producing any as it stands, but they can bring other talent in that otherwise might not be in the competition if their owners have the money that they have put up so far to be able to put that up consistently over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, Super League teams will desperately hoping for them to come up so that they can get an extra share of the annual Sky money, won't they? So
yeah. On to the action on the field, and the result was 40 points to 24, and there was some sparkling tries scored from both sides. We had a few fan views in on this one as well.
So Smeghead72 says the Wolfpack hammered the Olympique left side for try after try in the first half. The second half was good for the pack, but we took our foot off the gas, and that is worrying. Ricky Latelli. Yeah, Latelli, thank you. It's quality, and he's going to fit right in Super League if the gate isn't shut in our faces. James Ford of Toulouse just never is good against Toronto. Maybe his Little Red Riding Hood. Grand final, here we come. Cheers from Canada.
James Ford hasn't been as impressive this season. I think Stan Roban's been their best halfback this season. But, they still have Mark Corella. I mean, it was late. It was after the game was gone, but he scored a couple of great tries in the last 10 minutes.
That was a great try. That was a great try towards the end of the game.
Stuart Wood said, "We've got more fans than Wigan. We've got more fans than Wigan." Look, that is a definite strength. Even though I question the figure for this game, it's a definite strength of a team in a large metropolitan area that loves sports and is very attached to its sporting franchises.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's another big tick in the Toronto column, the fact that they can even report that crowd and people aren't, you know,